Nice. Okay, so we are live for one more week, and as I was saying, we need to make a trailer just to make it like
Have a theme tune.
to build some momentum and some anticipation, like make it a scary one maybe. From like scenes from like the Army of Darkness or something.
I don't know. You need a sort of bit of melodrama, don't you? Something sort of that builds and then,
Yeah,
whatever.
but like the Army of Darkness doesn't have a melodrama. So. Us fighting the undead. Okay, what we have today? We have
After Forever.
After Forever by Sabbath. I
thought,
yeah. Go on.
After the sort of serious nature of last week's discussion, I thought we'd lighten it up a bit and go old school.
Yeah. And you know, completely. When I recommended us doing the theme of suicide and mental health on for last time, I didn't realize it was Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. So it wasn't like planned. So because like a lot of organizations, they kind of do mental health themes over the month. But I completely, and like to my shame, actually, like a counselor in training didn't realize.
Yeah, even Planet Rock had sort of talking heads doing bits on loneliness and the DJs being open and honest about life and stuff. So
yeah, but I don't.
Well, I didn't realize it was all month. I thought it was last week and we'd missed it.
Yeah, no, it's a month. Like
yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is good. So I mean, I heard the song. I never heard the song before, if I'm honest with you.
But it's Black Sabbath.
Yeah, but like for me, Black Sabbath was like the first one, the self-titled. Like after that, I kind of have like, because I was never like a blood. Although I like Sabbath, I was never like a big fan. So I know like the hits.
It's a generation thing, I guess, and as well, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, but like Sabbath, classic, isn't it? Like,
I was brought up with it.
They're quite classic, and you kind of listen to them because you can't believe they're still alive. Like you kind of wonder, like you can't comprehend how Ozzy managed to still be alive. I think Sharon just keeps him alive with black magic or something. Like keep making me money.
Have you read his autobiography?
No.
Oh, I
don't read biographies.
I tend not to, but my son got hold of Ozzy's, and I thought I'd read it for a laugh.
The fun stuff with me, it's like I love people's stories. I love like listening to people's life stories, but reading a biography is just like.
I mean, Ozzy's, whether he wrote it or it was ghostwritten or whatever, it was done to entertain. Yeah, I mean, it's full of fun stories of mayhem and drink and drugs.
They probably contradict themselves because
the one episode that remains with me that sort of can't seem to shake off is when he when he came out of rehab after the whole sort of throttling Sharon episode and all of that sort of thing.
And the first time he went to kill her.
Yeah. And she put him in rehab and he came out and he was meant to report to the doctor sort of every month for an update afterwards to make sure he was sort of sticking to schedule. And he was saying, so he used to go in and the doctor used to ask him how many units he'd had in the last week. And he'd say, average units per day or whatever. And he'd say, maybe sort of one or two a day. And so, doctor's saying, that's not too bad. You really ought to cut back a little bit, but not. And he said it was only after 6 months of the therapy sessions, but he realized that when the doctor said unit, he meant glass, not bottle.
I mean, the doctor was so naive to believe like Ozzy suddenly have like 2 glasses of wine.
This was Jack Daniels, I think, or Brandy. Brandy was his tipple. But yeah, but it was the doctor was going to believe anything that kept paying the bills. It was in the States, so
Yeah.
Private healthcare. But
Yeah, I guess.
they don't care what the answer is as long as you keep paying to turn up.
Yeah. Talking about alcohol, Lemmy came in my mind for some reason. That up to the end of his life, he was like a heavy drinker, and he
Yeah.
didn't die from alcohol.
No, I think he was told in the last 6 months that he could prolong his life if he gave up.
Yeah, but his
but he
diagnosis
didn't.
was like he was diagnosed, and like
like
in a matter of days, he was gone. He was a terminal thing in his head and in his brain or his throat, I think.
Yeah. So I can't remember the details, but yeah, some report that he decided to keep drinking and be done with it. But
yeah, I mean, he didn't have anything else in it. I don't think he had anything else left in his life, isn't it? He wasn't producing much of the music, so it was like he was still like surviving on his legend, isn't it?
I think he lived on his legend for a long time. I mean, it's probably blasphemous to diss Lemmy in this sort of context, but I mean, when I saw Motorhead, I was completely unimpressed, I must admit. He just didn't have a stage presence. He came on and expected everyone to love him because he was Lemmy.
I think Motorhead became more of like on Lemmy's personality off stage than.
Yeah, and that's the thing. On stage, I mean, I saw him a couple of times, and he walked out there. He did a good job of doing what he does, and then he walked off again. And there was no interaction with the crowd. There's not even an attempt to introduce songs or anything else. Just playing. And he props his guitar up against the speaker for the feedback at the end and walks off. Really? I want a show.
I think we got kind of drifting too much.
Yeah. Anyway,
so I mean, I have to leave it with you to lead the way because you know the song better than I do.
Yeah, and it's probably got some notoriety for. I thought actually it was probably the only song that had been covered by Stryper, the Christian hair metal band, but apparently they've done a cover of Heaven and Hell as well, so that shoots that down. But it says a lot about the lyrics. I guess that Stryper felt comfortable to cover it without any alteration.
I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know the cover either of them, but Heaven and Hell. It was quite strange because Stryper was like a traditional Christian group.
Hair metal, but
yeah, but like in terms of like theology and attitude, they're traditional Christians. And so I understand like After Forever, but like Heaven and Hell, because even Dio himself says like it was never about. So Dio was spiritual. He had like a Catholic upbringing, but he wasn't like he didn't believe like in a heaven or a hell, like I said, places after death.
I've never thought of it as a spiritual song, I must admit, but
no, a lot of his songs are actually quite spiritual. Dio songs.
Oh, sorry, Christian.
And it was actually the first singer, the first Black Sabbath singer that actually contributed something.
It was probably the first Black Sabbath singer that could actually sing, but
yeah, I mean, to be honest,
Ozzy wrote some lyrics.
Yeah, Ozzy didn't write almost anything with Sabbath. He got accredited songs because Sharon was their manager's daughter, and they were dating. So it was like
that was only later on, but
but I think I think Dio was a far better singer for Black Sabbath, to be honest.
I guess like Lemmy, Ozzy brought personality, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, but Dio brought this.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think the lyrics would written by Geezer Butler, bass player, because he wrote most of the decent lyrics.
I think it was Geezer and Tony, isn't it? Tommy.
Yeah, I've seen somewhere that someone crediting the lyrics to Tony, but I haven't, because all the songs are credited to all four of them in the early days. I haven't worked out who wrote it, but I know Geezer had a sort of Catholic background. And
I think all
was
of them, they were like Christian, had a Christian background.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony, yeah.
The whole sort of Sabbath image, which got them the sort of bad reputation in church circles. I mean, I remember back in the day arguing with Christians I encountered, including my now wife, that Sabbath weren't a satanic band, and citing these lyrics as a sort of proof of that. At the very worst, the lyrics are saying keep an open mind, but actually some of them are.
No, I mean, if you remember watching an interview from Iommi, and the interview of Iommi, he was talking about the cross he wears.
Yeah.
And he was given to him by a family member or something as a gift, and he's saying like he never went upstage without the cross. So for him it was like something like a holy relic.
Yeah, talisman sort of.
It's like a talisman, like
protection
on stage, and it was funny because he was saying a story about there was this church. They managed to cancel one of their gigs, and the night that the gig was supposed to happen, the church caught fire. It was an it was an accidental fire, and of course they got blamed for that. And Iommi was like, "Yeah, I mean, we never denied it either." So they kind of like enjoy the free publicity. And they think about it, they were kids, isn't it? They were like in early 20s or something, late teens.
Yeah, and they've always had an eye for publicity. But the whole, choosing the name, it was bound to provoke, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was, when you think they certainly started releasing records late 60s when everything was sort of hippies and peace and love and all that sort of thing. And along comes this band with heavy riffs called Black Sabbath. And it was sort of countercultural, so they stuck out. Which is,
if you think about
that's how you sell records.
After Forever, the other had like After Forever you could say it's like one of the earliest heavy Christian metal songs.
I can't think
it
of
was
any
Christian metal before Christian metal, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the Striper cover, there's something from Michael Sweet saying, if you look at the lyrics of the song, it's something they could have written. And they're conservative American evangelist background.
Yeah.
So,
how do you think about like for a song that was written when was written? I think that was like must be 70s, isn't it?
This was Masters of Reality 72, I think.
72. So it wasn't like
71 even, third album.
Yeah.
First
early
two came
70s.
out first two came out in 1970.
I don't think there was like a lot of like evangelistic campaigns going on at that time.
No, it's probably a bit early for the Billy Graham thing, and
I mean maybe in the States, but like in the UK, I don't think they would like.
I think 76, maybe 77. Billy Graham came to the UK. Maybe 78. I don't know. But certainly after this.
Yeah, but it was like a very unusual for like a rock band.
Yeah.
To do that, and like a mainstream mainstream metal band to do a song like this in the 70s.
Well, I guess it
which
begs the
was
question:
all like sex, drugs, and rock and roll back at that time. Like,
what was it really mainstream? There weren't that metal bands. But certainly not sounding like Sabbath.
yeah, I mean, at the
not
time,
1971. They had a sound of their own.
at that time, you could tell them they were like hard rock. Back then, you describe them as hard rock. Heavy metal wasn't even a term.
It's a term that's changed. I think the Kinks have been blamed for the first heavy metal song, haven't they? But
I mean, like as a title, like as a music genre, it came a lot later.
Yeah, Sabbath sort of started it. It was, but in retrospect, I think, it was a name that they got tagged with.
Yeah, I like that lyric. So, who do you like to see the Pope at the end
of the rope?
The rope. Do you think he's a fool? I found it funny.
But it's quite a challenging song, really. It's challenging people's sort of attitudes, isn't it? And it's almost evangelism 101 as a conversation. Have you ever thought about your soul? Can it be saved? You know.
Yeah,
it's a good starting point.
Kind of makes you wonder, like, did they give like any thoughts to like kids about about God and Christ and this kind of stuff? It's like during the 70s, it wasn't still about. Yeah, there was like the whole thing of like rock and roll is the music of Satan and this kind of stuff, but it wasn't like an anti-religion attitude from the bands. Any like take it from the Beatles to Sabbath, it wasn't really. They were just like enjoying the publicity and playing with that.
And I mean, Sabbath played with the imagery, but I think a lot of it came from record companies. They were looking. It's for the shock value, isn't it?
But it kind of like works on, they came out and then people get shocked and say, okay, let's sell more of this.
Yeah. We don't like our kids listening to this nasty, heavy noise. We'll call it satanistic. Again, my understanding is they actually wrote this as a sort of kickback against all the sort of bad PR they were getting from churches and such like. Mm-hmm. So it's probably deliberately overstating their personal position just to make a point.
I get that.
But that said, the whole of the album has got sort of Christian references cropping up. There's another song, Lord of This World, which basically is talking about sort of people who, because of the choices they make, they're just letting themselves be controlled by the devil. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're not talking about that song, but maybe that's another one, but for a future time. But there's references in Children of the Grave, and
I remember the Children of the Grave. I haven't listened to it for like a long time.
Yeah, I mean it's a very limited lyric, but there are sort of overtones of, I guess, doom and consider your future and look to God. We used to reject the devil.
We used to take, we used to make like our own custom jackets. And with a Sharpie, we used to write like this kind of like Children of the Grave, and like, so especially if you're growing up like in a small town during the night, like teenage during the 90s, was like it's like you consider it like a really hardcore, like writing Children of the Grave. Like even if we never heard the song, like I didn't know the lyrics of the song, but like nobody else knew. So I could say whatever I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounded like really cool, like cool in like a scary cool, like.
I think, to be fair, when I was listening to Sabbath songs, the rest of the world was listening to disco, and it certainly wasn't cool doing what I was doing. with my patch denim jacket and all the rest of it. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in small group communities, we were always like the outsiders anyway.
but that was all part of it, isn't it? And that's what bands like Sabbath were looking for. They didn't want to go with the flow, and as the element of shock rock.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, how they got their reputation based on the content of the first two albums, I'm really not quite sure.
Yeah, the first one was quite dark, isn't it?
It's dark,
especially musically. I mean, they played the Triton quite a lot, so they were playing the devil's music, like.
Well, because they were using the
Triton,
the Triton, the Devil's Call, didn't it, or something in the first song? Yeah. And I guess that probably helped, but that's just Iommi's musicality coming out, isn't it?
But also, like with all like the Tritons, the way like Ozzy's voice quite like, I never liked his singing. Like I can't stand him, to be honest. But like for the first Black Sabbath album, I think like he was like, that was the voice you expecting to hear. So you have that first riffs of like the Black Sabbath song, like going, or like the War Pigs, like so the Ozzy's voice kind of like tied it together.
He did sort of manic well, didn't he? I mean, fairies wear boots and stuff like that. It's convincing when Ozzy sings about seeing fairies dancing with dwarves and
probably he saw them.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't doubt him.
No,
all the things he was drinking, I like that.
Yes,
he saw an awful lot of things.
Just because it's not true doesn't mean you don't believe it, or something.
Yeah.
Should I be saying that on a Christian broadcast? I don't know. So we're drifting away from the lyrics again.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It apart from the light relief element of, after talking about loneliness and suicide and all the rest of it, this is a little bit more generic and it's a lot sort of lightweight. But actually, there's some profound, challenging questions in here. If people actually sort of listen to the lyrics and, why do people ignore God or ignore the idea of God? Is it peer pressure? Are they, scared of feeling stupid? Do they just think the people who run the church ought to be strung up?
But do they really deny God or ignore God, or they just deny and ignore an image that the church created? It's like it's not very appealing anyway, isn't it?
Well, it depends. I mean,
I think like that the church is, like I said, as an institution, like the image of God.
Church, the church is often its own worst enemy in terms of PR.
Yeah, so kind of like that's not like a. I remember just an example, like years ago, I was going through a tough time, and I was talking with like all like more experienced believers. I thought they were, but like they would just spend years in church, and they were saying, like, I don't understand. I mean, it was like quite a new believer at that point, and I was like questioning God in terms like, I don't understand why God is doing this to me. And they're saying, maybe you have to see, like, maybe you like you have a sin somewhere and that causes that judgment. And I was like, there's absolutely no way. Even as a new believer, it's like I couldn't accept that because I'm doing something wrong without knowing. So I'm doing something wrong that I don't know I'm doing something wrong. And God actually like makes my life miserable because I'm doing something wrong without knowing. It's like, what kind of sadistic person is this? Like the God that you believe in.
which is the image that's painted.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know, is that a sort of medieval idea of scaring people into good behaviour? And it's still built around a sort of superstition of a Old Testament vengeful God, isn't it?
But on the other hand, like if you take it to an institutional level, it kind of serves a purpose, isn't it? If the God you preach is a capricious God that always, try to get you, and you also need to look over your shoulder because God is coming to get you. It's like it's easier to keep a congregation scared and control and keep them.
Yeah, as I say, it's medieval sort of power politics, which is not my reading of the gospel.
Yeah, I mean, for the church I came into faith, like it wasn't an unusual theme to preach about. If you not coming to church, even like coming to church to this particular church, so even if you go to a different denomination, then don't be wondering like bad things are happening to you.
I mean, the other way of looking at it, which the church doesn't seem to push so much, is actually if you're in the process of changing your life and walking into church, it's more likely to be the devil that's causing the problems in your life because he's lost another one.
Yeah. So it's quite a lot of bad theology.
Yeah.
Which a lot of times we don't get rid because it's also a convenient theology. Yes, makes all the answers easy. Like why things go wrong in your life, but like because God is punishing you, like the devil, like it's like, and I think also it kind of creates a whole thing, keeps people unaccountable because it's like the devil that done all these things. Like it's not my fault.
Oh yeah, I mean,
control,
I mean, yes. Sometimes
you have
stuff just happens.
zero responsibilities. Like, because if you say, even if you we believe that the devil put some thoughts in your head, what that means, that's like if the devil is like you have a thought, go out and start shooting at people. That's like just grab.
Just
what I mean.
Just say no, kids.
Yeah, like it's not a when you see a lot of things, like especially, I mean, I was watching a documentary actually a couple of days ago about PTSD at US troops. And it was a guy that was actually saying, like, I was sitting in my couch and the only thing I was thinking to grab my rifle and go and just shoot at people. And he had like a glimpse of clarity, and he just grabbed his wife and drove through to a mental clinic, and he was like there for a month. And he was like, I was just angry with people that are happy.
Yeah.
So it also ignores the effects of mental health as well, like all PTSD.
And that's the thing. I mean, life isn't black and white, and there's all sorts of reasons for all sorts of stuff. Just because you're hearing the voice telling you to do stuff, doesn't mean you don't have the control to stop listening to them.
It's also like kind of sometimes we over blame the devil.
Oh yeah, we give him far too much power.
Yeah, far too much credit, I would say.
Yeah.
Because I remember like listening to a lot of times like people are saying, like more like people that they were like preaching for a number of years, they would like recount, they will look back on the early days that were asked to preach, and they will say like, they have like these thoughts that you're not good enough, and you have nothing to say, and like they will attribute it like to the devil, that the devil, like, not like the sermons was anything special, but anyhow they will attribute that to the devil. But that's, if you think about it, I have heard people that they have zero religious background and they're not talking to church, and they will say exactly the same things. Like I said, it's not
Yeah.
like a spiritual thing necessarily. It's like most of the times I believe it's like that you grew up not being feel not like the people that they were responsible for you didn't make you feel good enough, so that you have nothing to say. And not necessarily that was the wrong, but it's like sometimes it's like how things are. So yeah, so I'm kind of like overcautious a lot of times on like spiritualizing things that they have nothing to do with like
But I
any
think
spiritual.
yeah. But then, God sort of covered that. I mean, one of the spiritual gifts is discernment, which I think that's all about. It's telling the difference between the rubbish that everyday life throws at you and spiritual warfare.
Yeah, it's a thin line.
And the same thing can be caused by two different situations. But I mean, it is a spiritual gift to know the difference sometimes.
Yeah.
Whether it's a sort of a temporary understanding of a difference, or some people just seem to have that gift of just feeling something's not right.
Yeah, a gut feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. I've experienced it myself occasionally. You get the sort of, I mean, we used to call them head shops, but there's the shops with all the paraphernalia in them, and most of them you walk past and they're just full of inverted crosses and pentagrams and all the nonsense. And well, that's a shame. But once or twice I've walked past these places and think, actually, no, there's something more there. It's just, you can't put your finger on it, and it doesn't necessarily affect anything. But
you remind me, like, you left me in mind the dark times, isn't it? Like the shop over in over the Chatham train station.
Yeah.
By the way, if everyone's watching and they're like into this stuff, go support those guys. They're very good guys, and they kind of embrace us as a church, as Fire and Blood. They were like always very open to us to use their space to promote ourselves, which is like, it was the last place that you'd expect a church, like any type of church, like to promoting themselves, like.
It's sort of like Sabbath singing.
You have like people like from prostitutes that they're buying crack pipes, to teenage kids that they're buying like
sort of dragons and stuff,
and pagan stuff, and like crystals, and we are there, like an us. But that's the beauty, isn't it? Like when you I think when you keep your eyes open, like God opens doors, like you at least expect. It's just like let's see what's on the other side. Like.
And it is that discernment, and sometimes it's about taking risks, stretching the boundaries. Who knew Black Sabbath would produce a Christian song?
But that's then again, like like Christian song. Like, it is a song.
Oh yeah, but it's
a song
I mean, a lot of, certainly early Sabbath, there are references to church material. It almost as an aside, and constant references to Satan laughing, spreading his wings in war pigs and things like that. But they're not Christian songs. They're just set in the context that Christianity exists. Whereas
Yeah,
this
even
is
War
a bit,
Pigs. Yeah,
but yes, War Pigs.
we mentioned
know,
War Pigs. So, like it could, like let's say, like those songs that could be in the Psalms.
Yeah, it's look at a
It's
pitiful world, and if you don't do
mm,
something about it, Satan's just going to laugh.
yeah, it's borderline prophetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you could think that could call Geezer Butler a prophet.
we haven't got a radioactive wasteland yet,
Yeah,
but again, that was War Pigs is more having a dig at governments who
yeah, but
warmonger, isn't it?
you said
But
like radioactive wasteland. I remember when was the previous presidential campaign in the U.S. where Trump got elected. So when they had the Republican, I don't know how they call it. It's like when they kind of campaigning to become the Republican candidate.
yeah,
So they were talking about war and like terrorism in terms of like Islamic terrorism from the Middle East. And one of the candidates says like, "Oh, I'll nuke them and see if sun can glow." So I mean, it's shocking. Like it's really sad. Like that was like his catchphrase. Like, see if sun can glow. So I'm gonna nuke innocent people to see if the sun can glow. If the sun can glow.
yeah,
It's like well, that's like a radioactive wasteland, isn't it?
yeah, and careful what you wish for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just looking at the
But
lyric.
anyway, so what do you do with a heavy metal band with a reputation for Satanism who produce something that's talking about how people should at least consider the existence of God and that they've seen the light and they've changed their ways, which I
Yeah,
don't think. I'm not sure the changing of the ways was very heartfelt in 1971, but
because back then it wasn't like so much. Although there was like a kind of embracing the darkness thing. It wasn't, and the message wasn't anti-Christian,
no,
which was like in a way it was. I remember
it,
an article I read. There was actually what Christians can learn from metal music. It was that we became our churches became too happy clappy, too Hillsoning.
mm,
Like we go there and have a great time. Like and
and
so where like in and in metal is you get that Old Testament psalm feeling, isn't it? That all emotions are there, like you know.
yeah, you're allowed to be miserable. You're allowed to be mentally challenged. You're
You're allowed to be
whatever.
angry.
You're allowed to be angry. Yeah,
You're allowed to be angry to wish like
right.
your enemy's death and the wars for the and then we have
Yeah, I think
David
that
writing those songs, and then we still have God calling him man according to my own heart. And I think that because like he was a honest, despite his many flaws, which like it wasn't a few, they were quite a lot. He was still like David was an honest man.
yeah,
When he was challenged, he wasn't start running after Nathan to kill him. It was like he humbled himself. And it's like, oh, I'm an idiot.
yet another tormented soul. Managing
Yeah,
kingship and humility, which can't be easy.
yeah. So yeah, I think like metal has that prophetic element that calls basically to embrace your own humanity, like by embracing your own darkness. You
I was
embrace
going to
your own
say,
humanity.
is it prophetic or is it just reflecting real life?
I mean,
Which I suppose is an element of.
prophet. It's an element of prophets, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I guess the question is how many answers it provides to some of the issues. But certainly there's an honesty there that, you know, the subjects we've talked about over the last few months.
Mm.
You know, it's not stuff that tends to come up in your average song by Beyonce, is it?
Mm.
Or
But it's not something like having the answers, isn't it? It's like, okay, this is it. It is what it is. It is what it is. Not that was a wrong thing. This is it. That's wrong.
Mm.
So I think sometimes also like with the prophetic element was like just to uncover things.
Mm.
So because like no one's talking about them and try to pretend that they're not happening. And like a lot of times that we do in the churches is that, like, you know, if we just ignore that too many gays around, they will suddenly disappear and they will stop existing. And then, like, I think a part of the prophetic ministry, it's like that's a responsibility. It's like, okay, like, guys, like, this is an issue, a social issue. We just keep ignoring and not talking about it. Like,
although I don't know, there's a little skeptical part of me that gets concerned when all of a sudden someone gets too socially conscious in a church setting. I'm sort of mindful that, you know, the tradition of eating fish on Fridays, which is, you know, certainly when I was brought up, it was, you know, that was a tradition. Apparently, you know, that was heavily supported by the church. But turns out it was a Catholic papal edict in the sort of 1920s or something, because the Italian fish industry was suffering.
I'm not sure, because like it is a thing in the Greek Orthodox as well. It's like going back like centuries, like Wednesday and Friday as well.
But it was sort of, well, I mean, going back to the start, sort of earlier conversation, certainly in favour of fish on a Wednesday. But
yeah, because I remember when I was during my national service on Wednesdays and Fridays, we won't have like meat or like anything like this. We had like beans and this kind of stuff. Yeah.
But I think that there's an element of tradition already there, but churches were encouraged to push the message out, basically to rebuild the fishing industry.
Yeah, but those things are becoming like they're becoming an end to themselves, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it becomes just sort of routine, and you know,
you need to not eat fish on Friday. But why? Like,
yeah, because, why am I eating fish?
The Christian thing to like, why? Like,
yeah, and then it's adopted by Anglicans and non-Italians, and you know, so you know, if it's, you know, point being, if there's, you know, these things might be right and worthy and such, like, if it's backed by a fresh interpretation and sort of study of scripture, and you know, on the whole gay thing, there's now a lot of sort of looking at original translations and interpretations and context and all the rest of it, and absolutely, quite right, which has an underlying justification, and you know, its context is part of how we're meant to look at scripture.
Yeah, but then I think,
but if it's just as you know, the world is now accepting people of alternative lifestyles, therefore the church better, that's not the same thing. And you know, it's again, it's one of these fine lines.
Because then we say like alternative lifestyles, like that's a very broad.
Yeah, I wasn't referring. I wasn't referring to the LGBT thing as.
No, I mean like in generalizations are like an easy way to like create like a straw man. Like, you know, what are we talking about? Like, alternative lifestyles. Like it's I will throw. It's a question I will throw back. Like, what do you mean alternative? So basically, they want to say gays, but they don't want to sound homophobic. So like alternative lifestyles, but you're actually like, like you mean gays.
I was being deliberately vague, covering all sorts, having. Yeah, because as I say, there is a lot of theological study going into the whole gay thing. Notwithstanding the fact that God is love, and
I think
if people are gay, then it's not something they have a choice over, and
you go like weapon.
Is God going to punish that?
We open a can of worms now. That's for another.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not getting all that one.
But I think, like in general, I think in all those things, one of the big mistakes that are happening is that we take the Bible. No, they also put it this way: those people they declare to be Bible literacists, but they take the Bible literally only when it suits them.
Yes.
So because then if we say the Bible, we take the Bible literally, then probably you expect a 10-headed beast dragon to come off the sea and start run after a pregnant woman.
I'm still looking to the time. I mean,
like a literally 10-headed beast. You know what I mean?
I don't have a problem with that.
This is the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, if you've taken literally that, then you should accept that a 10-headed monster will come like Cthulhu or something. Like,
to be honest, I'd think that I'd be happier with the literalists if they also took the sort of the literal view of love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
God welcomes all who he calls, or all who he calls.
Remember I was reading something. But he was saying that Bible literacists, they're happy to accept that the Bible is clear of women keep it zipped at churches, but when you talk about them like feeding the poor and care about the list of this, they call you a socialist. You're a bloody socialist.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like,
and then that's basically confusing faith and right-wing bigotry, isn't it? I mean, it's
I mean, I wouldn't call it like right-wing probably, because even from I think when you put like something else on the front, it becomes toxic. Because I saw like similar thing. It's like you see, like sometimes you think see media around and you think that the only thing that matters from the right and the left is what you believe about homosexuality and abortion.
I mean, so if you like, it's a very American view of left and right as well.
Yeah, but they are the more like on the edges, isn't it? Like in the UK, we're kind of more on like
Don't forget that sort of the American left, if you take that as being the Democrats, it's probably further right than the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
So it's a slanted.
That's even Americans when they say left, it's like it's not really left.
No, it's centre right.
Centre left. Like literally the Tories.
But that's getting into American politics and
but that's like a kind of a big theme, like even like
it's easy to throw sticks at them.
Yeah, but like the world we live now, it's like it's very easy to get influences from across the pond and kind of like draw like a very thick line, and they say like you can't be left wing and believing homosexuality is a sin, for instance. If you're left wing, you must believe but it's not like everyone can believe whatever they want to believe and have the reasons with it. And then the other side has the adult at the conversation has the responsibility to engage them and give them the space to express their ideas.
Well, it's a confusion of morality and dogmatic politics.
At the same time, when you give it a public voice, it's open to challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, say about like how like the Nazis in Germany, like with Hitler's Nazis, they came into power. Like they didn't start from the public halls; they were in the pubs, and
Yeah.
you know, because no one would give them like to allow them to speak. They would, like they found their voice, but they found it where it cannot in areas that couldn't be controlled or like challenged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think
We've drifted again.
far away. I think we need to bring it into a close. We are like 50 minutes in, so it's a good. I think it's a
Yeah.
good
So if you're still listening, anyone out there or live or on the repeat,
people dipping in and out. But
yeah.
next week we're gonna play the recording again. So
Anyone out there, read these lyrics. Think about them. Are they a challenge?
yeah,
How do you respond to that challenge? There's a lot of alternative responses to church in those lyrics. Which one's you? Put some comments down below, and
you make it sound like a Sunday morning now.
yeah, well, with
Come and
feedback.
Neil.
With feedback, you know.
Yeah.
Start a discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
Without too much trolling.
Yeah. We have trolls only on paid adverts. Which, by the way, makes our adverts cheaper.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
that work?
I always thank the trolls for making our adverts cheaper.
If only they knew.
That's the
Don't
weird thing
mention it.
about Facebook. When the more engaged an ad is, the cheapest it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we better edit this bit out so they don't know then.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go into Facebook advertising now. It's like it's irrelevant. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was that from us. So we're gonna be around a couple of weeks' time, I think, with a subject that we haven't got a clue what it's going to be. As always.
So, some might say, when we start these talks, we haven't got a clue as well. But...
Yeah, we never have a clue what they're gonna say. So it kind of keeps it open. Anyway, so yeah, so goodbye everyone that doesn't watch live, but they will be watching a recording. And yeah, let us know your comments, and if you have any ideas about songs and themes for future podcasts. Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Go listen to some Sabbath.